to From Fishing Smack to Research Vessel. This is episode 2. Mistaken Identities. When you fall in love with an old boat, you fall in love with the story. But the story isn't always clear. Sometimes it is buried beneath a century of salt and sea dust. Pages torn out, names painted over, and even whole chapters missing. And that is exactly what I discovered when I began researching the boat I now called Nordley's. When I first saw her in Den Helder, Nordley's was already different. Not like the sleek fiberglass yachts lined up in the marina. She had history in her bones. Old lines, weathered timbers, and the unmistakable build of a 19th century sailing ship. Naturally, I wanted to know where she came from, what kind of life she'd led, who built her, and when. The mysteries began. I was first told that she was built in Yarmouth, on the Isle of Wight, in 1873. That stopped me in my tracks. I've spent years perusing books about sailing, especially the traditional British fishing fleet. I had actually sailed in it to Den Helder, on one of those traditional British fishing boats. And I couldn't recall one ever being built on the Isle of Wight. Yarmouth is a lovely place, but it's not a major hub for that kind of working vessel. So I made a guess. A reasonable one, I thought. Maybe they were confused. As many people are. Maybe they meant Great Yarmouth, not Yarmouth. Similar names, different places. Yarmouth, the port on the Isle of Wight, and Great Yarmouth, the famous fishing port in Norfolk. No, that made more sense. Smacks launched there for decades, centuries, in their hundreds and thousands. If Nordley's had originated anywhere, it felt like that was the right kind of place. So I went down the rabbit hole. Archives, registries, old shipbuilding logs, anything I could lay my hands on. I found half models that looked very similar to her. And that's when I found it. A vessel named Fix. She had been built in Great Yarmouth in 1873. The hairs on my arms stood up. The right year, the right place, the right size. The kicker, the last time anyone had tracked Fix, was in Bergen in 2001. Exactly where Nordley's had worked before she was sold to the Netherlands. It fit too well. And then I saw a picture of Fix. And it clicked. She had the loop stern, the curved transom, typical of converter smacks. Everything matched. Not just on paper, but visually. This had to be her. It was perfect. Fix had been renamed Nordley's and wandered the North Sea and Norwegian fjords for a century now. I was going to bring her home, back to Lowestoft, just 8 miles from where she had been originally built. It felt like she was coming full circle. But I wanted to be sure. So I started to look into who had originally owned Fix back in 2001, and it turned out we had mutual friends. Small world, right? Traditional sailing circles are like, everyone is very helpful, and when I got in touch, they were very helpful and lovely, but were also very clear. Fix was still in Norway. She was on the Hard, just outside of Bergen. You can still look her up on Google Maps. She's got a cover over herself now, but she's still there. The boat I'd found wasn't. It hit me like a wave. Everything had lined up so well. The dates, the builds, the size, even the shapes. But it wasn't the same vessel. I started to wonder, had the stories of the two boats gotten tangled over time? Old boats often change hands without much paperwork. Names change, owners move on, and over decades, the lines can blur between two vessels. But there was still something about Fix that lingered. She was the right shape, the right age, and with that same loose stern, everything about her looked like Nordley's. This is when I started to believe something complicated. These two boats had a history. Nordley's and Fix had been muddled together over time, and someone had confused them. And when the story was passed on, it got more and more tangled up. And for a while, I gave up. I started to think I would never find Nordley's real name. It was one of those maritime stories lost to time, like so many smacks before her. Built, worked hard, and then forgotten. But the boat was still here, still floating, and maybe that was enough. Because what's it matter anyway? The name on the register? It's the life she lived, the work she's done. And that's what we shall be talking about next time. The history I received when buying her. I will tell you about the many years Nordley spent transporting firewood and lumber around the Norwegian fjords, how she became a motor cargo vessel hauling timber, and how she was re-rigged as a shading ketch, and decades later was rebuilt again as an engineless sail cargo vessel. Until then, thanks for listening. This is William from Wind Dark Sea Research. Safe sail.